Hi, my name is Faith Hogan and I'm a writer. I write women's fiction and my fourth book is due out in October. It's called What Happened to Us and it is set in Dublin. It's a story about a woman who thinks her world has fallen apart only to find that sometimes happy ever after isn't ever going to be what you expected it to be. And today I'm just going to read a little bit from the beginning of the book, just to give you an idea of what it's about. So, here we go. The first night of winter, and it was wet, very wet, and she knew the rain was pouring in drops down her face, could feel them, drip, drip, dripping off the end of her nose. She could feel the tears too hot and stingy in her eyes. Someone had given her a cigarette. Miraculously, she'd managed to smoke halfway down, but it was soggy and extinguished now, which was no bad thing. She never smoked. Why add to her list of failures at this late stage? At the far end of the lane, something or someone caught her eye, but she must be mistaken, because who in their right mind would be out on an evening like this? Her thoughts darted back to the kitchen behind her. Kevin. Bloody Kevin. Well, she hadn't seen that coming, had she? She was still reeling, angry, upset, and yes, she could admit it to herself, broken-hearted. And Valentina. Kevin was in love with Valentina. He told her so it must be true. She raised the dead cigarette to her lips once more, hardly noticed that it tasted disgusting. He'd only met her a few months ago. That was when she came to work in the restaurant. The girl, that's all Valentina was, in her mid-20s at most, she looked no more than 17, had hardly a word of English 4 months ago. Yet here, Valentina and Kevin had become an item. How did that work? Okay, maybe she knew the answer to that already. Funny, but having it confirmed didn't make it any better. This place, her office, had suddenly just felt like none of it was hers anymore. That was just absurd, though. It was hers, every bit of it. The restaurant, the 5 stars, the whole business from start to finish. She had built it up. Kevin might have been the talent, he might have been the toast of the Dublin foodie scene, but she was the brains behind the operation. Kevin was the technical force, but everything else in this business was down to her. She'd picked the building, the art on the walls, she'd organised the launches, managed the press, she'd chosen the tablecloths and ordered the wines, and she did the hiring and firing. She'd hired Valentina because she came with good references. Of course she was a stunner, everything about her was glossy as if she'd been dipped in polish. Inky black hair, a wide vermilion smile, and impossibly white teeth. She slunk about the restaurant, weaving her curves through the tables and flirting throatily with everyone she met. The customers loved a bit of glamour about the place. She was smart too. From the moment she set foot in the restaurant, Carrie had a feeling that one day Valentina could be capable of running somewhere every bit as good as the Sea-Par. But this was the last thing she expected. It took 2 days. It was unreal, of course, those 2 days. Kevin had not come home. Carrie assumed he was staying with Valentina. Well, where else? Maybe that incongruity had stoppered her rage, because she knew she had every right to be angry with them, with both of them. Instead, by going on as if things were completely normal, showing up for work, still keeping out of each other's way, it felt as though her fury was in a vacuum. Somehow it seemed irrational to cry and scream and wipe the floor with them as she knew they deserved. They'd gone through their usual routines, arrived at work at the normal time. Carrie spoke with staff and customers with her usual charm, like nothing had changed. Kevin stayed in the safety of the kitchen, immersed in the nuts and bolts of keeping orders moving to his own exacting standards. Then today the dam had somehow washed through, and as she'd walked through the kitchen she saw them. It was all very casual. He was checking sauces, Valentina was handing him seasoning, and she placed her hand on his arm. There was just a glance, it was just a fleeting look that said so much more than they managed to convey a couple of days earlier when they told her. It was filled with intimacy, charged with chemistry, and Carrie could see it was fueled by alliance. It suddenly struck her, the thing that she managed to ignore for 2 whole days. It dawned on her that it was not just her relationship of over a decade that had died a lingering death until its final cruel severing. That was not what tipped her emotions in the end. Rather, it was realizing that Kevin and Valentina were a couple, and now she was trapped here with the 2 of them. The book goes on from there. It's not all bad. It's been described as an uplifting read over on NetGalley, and if you do pick it up, if you do read it, I'd love to hear how you get on with it. leave a review or even just a tweet. And until next time, happy reading.